The mysterious inheritance. Jason Hawley had never been to Titan before. He had never even planned to. The frozen moon was far from Earth and even farther from his quiet life on the small mining station where he worked. But everything changed the day he received a strange message. It came from a lawyer named Corwin. The man's voice was calm but carried a weight that made Jason uneasy. "Mr. Hawley," Corwin said, "you have been named the sole heir to the Hawley estate on Titan, including property, assets, and an abandoned mine." Jason blinked at the screen. "I think you have the wrong person," he replied. "I've never owned anything, and I don't even know anyone on Titan." Corwin shook his head. "There's no mistake, Mr. Hawley. The mine belonged to your uncle, Samuel Hawley." Jason froze. Uncle, the word didn't fit. He had never met anyone named Samuel in his family. But Corwin explained that Samuel had left Earth decades ago and had lived in isolation until his recent death. 3 weeks later, Jason stepped off the shuttle onto Titan's surface. The air was thin and bitter cold under the colony's dome. Artificial sunlight shone weakly through the glass, casting long shadows across the dusty streets. His boots crunched over frost as he made his way to the mine site on the outskirts. The land was silent, too silent, as if even the wind didn't dare to pass through. The mine was unlike anything Jason had seen. Instead of the rough rock openings he was used to, there stood a pair of massive metal doors. They rose at least 20 feet high, their surface smooth and dark. Strange markings curved across them in looping lines that shimmered faintly in the dim light. They didn't look human-made, not old mining equipment, not industrial steel, something else. Jason ran his hand over the surface. It was cold, colder than the air around him, and it seemed to hum softly under his palm. The markings pulsed. Once, like a heartbeat, he stepped back, startled. "What the hell?" he whispered. Then it happened. A voice spoke in his mind, not through his ears. "Help me," it said. Soft and desperate, Jason's breath caught in his throat. He looked around. The empty land stretched out in every direction. No one was there. "Who's there?" he said aloud, but the only answer was the echo of his own voice. The voice came again, a little stronger. "They are coming. Hurry." Jason's pulse quickened. He didn't know who they were, but every instinct told him this was no prank. Something about the voice felt real and urgent. Before he could decide what to do, the doors began to move. A deep grinding sound filled the air as ancient mechanisms woke from their slumber. Dust and frost fell from the edges as the doors slid apart, revealing blackness beyond. Jason hesitated at the threshold. His mind screamed at him to turn back, to call the local security and let them deal with it. But something inside pulled him forward. He stepped into the darkness, his flashlight beam cutting through the cold air. The walls inside were smooth, the same strange metal as the doors. Every sound he made, the crunch of his boots, the hiss of his breath, echoed too loudly. It felt like the mine was holding its breath. He noticed more of the glowing symbols running along the walls. They seemed to lead deeper inside, like a trail. The passage opened into a wide chamber. Jason stopped dead in his tracks. The floor was littered with old equipment, mining drills, carts, even a broken exosuit, all covered in thick dust. It looked like no one had been here for centuries, and yet the air didn't smell stale. It smelled faintly like ozone, sharp and electric. Then he saw it. In the center of the chamber stood something that didn't belong in any mine. A massive glass-like capsule, tall enough to tower over him. Inside it floated a figure, a woman, her hair silver and flowing as if in water. She wore armor of deep blue and gold, alien in design, her eyes closed. Jason felt the voice in his head again, stronger this time. "Please. I have waited so long." Jason stumbled back, his heart racing. This was no simple inheritance, no forgotten mine. And whoever, or whatever, this woman was, she had been waiting for him. Far above, in the thin skies of Titan, something dark moved through the clouds. Jason didn't see it, but the woman inside the capsule did. Her eyes opened, glowing like twin stars, and Jason realized, too late, that stepping into the mine had just begun something far bigger than himself. First steps underground. The mine swallowed Jason whole, the moment the metal doors slid shut. Behind him, the sound of the outside world was gone. No wind, no hum of the colony systems, only silence. It was the kind of silence that pressed against your ears until you could hear your own heartbeat. Jason's flashlight cut a narrow path through the darkness. The beam caught on walls of smooth, dark metal that seemed to drink in the light. These weren't carved by drills or blasted with explosives. They looked grown, like the inside of a giant shell, curved and perfect. The glowing symbols on the walls pulsed faintly, as if reacting to his presence. He didn't like that. He moved deeper, his boots making soft thuds on the floor. The air was cold, but not biting, almost controlled. Every 50 steps or so, he passed what looked like panels built into the walls. Some were cracked open, revealing twisting cables like black vines. Others were sealed tight, faintly vibrating as if something inside was still alive. Jason knelt to examine one. When his fingers brushed the surface, the metal rippled like water. He yanked his hand back. The ripple faded, but a faint light now followed his movements, crawling along the wall like a living thing. Some kind of alien tech, and it knew he was here. The voice came again, clearer now. "You are closer," it said, the words smooth and calm. Jason spun around, shining his light into the darkness. "Nothing," he swallowed. "I don't know who you are," he whispered. "But I'm not here to play games." No answer. Only the steady pulse of the symbols ahead. He followed them. The tunnel dipped lower, the air getting heavier. It felt like walking underwater. Every step a little slower, his breath a little thicker. And then he noticed something strange. The dust was gone. The floor ahead was clean, polished like a mirror. Someone, or something, had been here recently. The tunnel opened into a massive chamber. Jason froze, his light sweeping across towering pillars that stretched up into the shadows. Between them, giant shapes lay under dark sheets. He stepped closer to one and pulled the edge of the cover. Underneath was a sleek machine, black and gold, shaped like a bird of prey. It was unlike any mining tool he had ever seen. A ship, maybe, or a weapon. Its surface shimmered with the same strange symbols as the walls. Before he could take a closer look, a low hum rolled through the chamber. It wasn't coming from the soft walls. It was coming from the floor. Jason stumbled back as thin lines of light spread under his boots, forming circles that expanded across the chamber. One by one, the pillars lit up, revealing what they held. Not ships, not machines, but tall capsules, each holding a figure inside. Some looked human, others definitely not. They floated in suspension, their faces calm, as if asleep. Jason's skin prickled. This wasn't just a mine, it was a vault, and the woman he saw earlier, she wasn't the only one. The voice returned, but now it was sharper. "Urgent. They are coming, Jason. You must hurry." The ground shook. From somewhere far above, a deep, metallic roar echoed through the tunnels. It wasn't the sound of a machine starting up. It was the sound of something alive and angry. The lights on the walls flared brighter, and Jason realized the symbols weren't just decoration. They were warnings. He didn't know what for, but he knew one thing. Whatever was coming, it was already inside. The alien princess. Jason followed the voice. It wasn't coming from any one direction. It was inside his head, pulling him deeper into the chamber. The air felt warmer now, almost alive. With each step, the glowing symbols on the walls shifted, rearranging themselves like they were watching him. He stepped past the rows of capsules. Some of the figures inside looked human, their features strangely familiar. Others had skin like polished stone or eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. But every one of them was motionless, locked in silent sleep. The voice spoke again, this time softer. "Just ahead, Jason." Hearing his name made the hair on his neck rise. Whoever or whatever was speaking knew him. At the far end of the chamber stood a single capsule, different from the rest. It was taller, wider, its surface made of a glass-like crystal that shimmered with faint starlight. Inside floated a woman, her silver hair spread around her like strands of light. Her armor marked with sharp angular lines that seemed to hum with power. She was beautiful. Yes, but it wasn't beauty that froze Jason in place. It was her. Eyes, they were open now, glowing with a light so bright it made his vision swim. Her lips didn't move, but her voice was clear in his head. "I am Alara, princess of the Lisari, heir to the Starlight Throne." Jason swallowed hard. "All right. Alara, what exactly are you doing in my mine?" She tilted her head slightly, as if amused. "It is not your mine, Jason Hale. It is my prison." Jason frowned. "Prison?" Ilara's gaze didn't waver. "I have been here for 912 years. I was sealed away by my enemies, the Vor, until the arrival of humanity. You are the first." He took a step back. "That doesn't make sense. Humans weren't. Even out here 900 years ago, we didn't even have—" Ilara's voice cut him off. "Sharper now. Time is not what you think it is. The Vor bend it as easily as you bend metal." Jason rubbed the back of his neck. "This is insane." But deep down, he knew it wasn't. The mine, the symbols, the strange machines, they were proof enough. Ilara's eyes flicked upward. "They are here," she said, her tone shifting to urgency. Jason followed her gaze. The ceiling above them shuddered. Dust falling in thin streams from somewhere far above. That same metallic roar echoed again. Closer now, Jason took a step toward the capsule. "If I let you out, what happens?" Ilara's answer was calm. "You live, humanity lives. But if you do not, the Vor will take your world and burn it to ash." Jason hesitated. Her words should have sounded like a threat, but there was no malice in them, only truth, and maybe something else, a strange weight behind her voice, like she already knew what choice he would make. The ground shook harder, lights flared red across the chamber. The once soft symbols now sharp and jagged. Ilara's voice cut through the chaos. "The Vor have found me. Jason Hale choose." Jason stared at her, his heartbeat pounding in his ears. And in that moment, he realized something terrifying. The Vor weren't here for her. They were here because of him. The ancient warning. Jason didn't move. The sound of the Vor's approach still echoed faintly from somewhere above, but his eyes were fixed on the strange markings around Ilara's crystal prison. They weren't random designs. They were a map. "Follow the walls," Ilara said, her voice quiet but urgent. Jason turned his flashlight and began tracing the glowing lines. They led away from her capsule, twisting along the smooth surface of the chamber until they merged into a single great mural. It was carved deep into the wall, stretching from floor to ceiling. The images were ancient, worn with time, but the story they told was still clear. First came scenes of two great armies, one of living creatures, the other of cold machines. The living army was made of dozens of alien species, but one figure kept appearing again and again, human. Jason's chest tightened in the carvings. These humans wore strange armor and carried weapons unlike anything he'd seen. They fought at the very front, leading the charge against the Vor. Jason stepped closer. One panel showed a towering Vor warship burning in the sky while human soldiers stood victorious below. Another showed an alien queen, who looked exactly like Ilara, holding the hand of a human warrior. "They fought together," Jason whispered, almost to himself. Ilara's voice answered. "They will fight together again." He turned to face her. This can't be real. We didn't even have spaceflight back then." Ilara's eyes were steady. "You think your kind was born only of Earth, Jason Hale? You think your history is complete? It is not." Jason felt a cold weight in his stomach. The mural's last panel was the most disturbing of all. It showed the Vor consuming a planet, not an alien world, but Earth. Cities burned, oceans boiled, and in the center stood a single human figure holding a blade of light. Jason's heart skipped. The figure's face. It looked like him. He stepped back, shaking his head. No, that's impossible. Elora's voice grew sharper. Impossible or not, it is truth. You are here because the Vor feared you would come. That is why they killed Samuel Hale. That is why they waited until you stepped into this place before they moved. Jason's mind raced. His uncle's death. His sudden inheritance. It was all a trap. But for who? For him or for her? A deep rumble rolled through the floor, and dust drifted from the mural. Far off in the tunnels, Jason heard the steady, metallic steps of something large and hunting. The Vor are almost here, Elara said. Her voice softened. I cannot open this prison from the inside. The key lies in the heart of the mine. But only your blood can unlock it. Jason blinked. My blood? Why? But the ground shook violently, cutting him off. Somewhere behind the walls, machinery roared to life for the first time in centuries. Lights along the floor blazed, showing a single path leading deeper underground. Jason looked at the path, then back at Elara. Why me? He asked, his voice low. Elara didn't blink. Because Jason Hale, you are not the first human to stand here. The Vor arrived. The sound came first, a low, metallic growl that didn't belong in any mine. It rolled through the tunnels, shaking dust from the ceiling. Jason froze, every instinct screaming at him to hide. Elara's voice cut through the noise. They are here, she said. But this time, her tone wasn't just urgent, it was sharp with anger. Jason turned toward the tunnel entrance. At first there was only darkness, then 2 points of red light appeared, faint but steady. They moved closer, each step a heavy, deliberate clang against the metal floor. The air grew colder. Jason's breath came out in short white clouds. The figure stepped into the light. It wasn't a machine. Not exactly. It had the shape of one tall skeletal, covered in black metal plates, but something inside it pulsed with faint blue veins. Its head was smooth and faceless except for those burning red eyes. When it moved, its joints didn't creak like gears. They clicked, like the bending of insect legs. Behind it came more, 6, then 10, then more shadows filling the tunnel. Each Vor moved in perfect silence, except for the echo of their steps. They didn't scan the room, didn't hesitate. They all turned toward Jason as if they had known where he stood from the moment they entered. They can smell your blood, Elara said. Jason's stomach tightened. He had no weapon, just a flashlight and the heavy pulse of fear in his chest. The first Vor stepped forward, its head tilting slightly as if studying him. Then, without warning, it lunged. Jason dove to the side, hitting the ground hard. The Vor's clawed hand slammed into the spot where he had been standing, leaving deep gouges in the metal floor. Move. Elara's voice snapped in his head. Jason scrambled to his feet and sprinted toward the deeper tunnels. The Vor didn't run. They followed in a relentless, mechanical stride, but with each step, the symbols on the walls began to glow brighter. Jason realized they weren't reacting to him. They were reacting to the Vor. Ahead, the tunnel split into 2 paths. One was wide and smooth, the other narrow and jagged. The wide one glowed with faint golden light. Jason ran for it, but as he passed through, the walls sealed behind him with a crash. The sound echoed like a giant heartbeat. He was alone. For the moment, the tunnel ahead opened into a long bridge. Suspended over a deep chasm, far below, a faint blue light shimmered. It wasn't water. It moved too slowly, thick and heavy. Elara's voice returned, calm but firm. That is the stellar core, she said. It is life. And death touch it, and it will burn you from the inside. But its energy is the key to my release. Jason didn't answer. At the far end of the bridge, he saw movement. Not Vor this time, but something else. A small hovering drone, golden and round like an eye. It drifted toward him, projecting a faint beam of light, scanning him head to toe. Then, in a voice that wasn't Elara's, it spoke, "You are not ready." Before Jason could react, the sound of tearing metal came from behind. The Vor had found another way in. Their silhouettes filled the far side of the bridge, Their red eyes locked on him, and this time, they didn't walk. They ran. The battle underground. The bridge shook as the Vor charged. Their clawed feet dug into the metal surface with each step, sending a deep vibration through the floor. Jason ran, but halfway across he saw the golden drone still hovering in front of him, blocking the path. "I said you are not ready," it repeated. Jason's voice was raw. "Then help me get ready." The drone tilted slightly. A beam of golden light scanned his chest again. Then it darted to the side and fired a burst of energy into the bridge's supports. The metal under Jason's feet shifted and groaned. Sections of the walkway began to collapse, falling into the glowing blue depths below. Jason leapt forward just as the first Vor reached him. The creature's clawed hand swiped at his back. Tearing through the strap of his pack, Jason hit the ground hard and rolled. As he scrambled to his feet, his hand landed on something cold, an alien tool half buried in the dust. It looked like a mining drill, but its barrel was made of the same glass-like crystal as Ilara's prison. The nearest Vor lunged again. Jason gripped the tool's handle, and instinct, or something deeper, told him where the trigger was. He squeezed it. The drill roared to life, but instead of spinning, it projected a cone of white-hot energy that tore through the Vor's chest in a single flash. The creature dropped without a sound, its body collapsing into dust before it hit the ground. Jason didn't have time to think. 2 more Vor leapt across the broken sections of the bridge, their movements impossibly precise. He backed toward the far end, firing the drill again. The beam didn't cut through them this time. It only staggered them. The energy was draining. From deep below, the blue light of the stellar core flared, pulsing in sync with the hum of the drill. "You are drawing from the core," Ilara's voice said in his head. "Too much, and it will take you with it." Jason ducked as a Vor's claw scraped over his head. He swung the drill like a club, smashing it into the creature's neck. The impact cracked the metal plating, revealing something beneath. A dark organic tissue, pulsing faintly, not fully machine, not fully alive. More Vor were closing in, their red eyes reflecting in the shifting glow of the core. Jason's heart pounded. The drone hovered nearby. "Watching, you adapt quickly," it said, almost as if impressed. Jason snarled. "Then open the damn way." The drone spun once, then shot a beam of light at the far wall. A hidden doorway appeared, its edges glowing. Jason sprinted for it, diving through just as the Vor lunged. The doorway sealed behind him with a solid slam. Jason staggered to his feet, breathing hard. The room he had entered was smaller, but its walls were covered in strange devices, rings, cables, and panels glowing with soft golden light. In the center stood a pedestal holding a crystal shard. It looked exactly like the lock on Ilara's prison. "This is the key, Ilara." Sighed, Jason stepped forward, but as his hand touched the shard, a sudden memory crashed into his mind. A flash of another man's hands holding the same crystal. A battle raging around him, Vor ships burning, and a voice whispering, "You've been here before." The escape and the promise. The crystal was warm in Jason's hand, too warm. Light pulsed from within it, in sync with his own heartbeat. And then the memory came again, clearer this time. A man in armor standing beside Ilara, holding the same crystal. Vor ships burning in the black sky. The man's face turned toward him. It was his own. Jason staggered back. What is this?" Ilara's voice was calm but heavy. "The prophecy is not about humanity arriving, Jason Hale. It is about humanity returning." Before Jason could speak, the room shook violently. The sealed doorway split open under a barrage of Vor claws. The first one through moved faster than he'd ever seen. Jason gripped the crystal tighter. The glow spread from his hand, racing up his arm in bright lines of light. The Vor lunged, but as soon as it touched the glow, its body convulsed and turned to dust. Jason stared at his arm in shock. The energy didn't burn him. It felt like it belonged there. More Vor poured in, but the golden drone zipped forward, firing precise beams that slowed their advance. "You have the key," it said. "Now go to her." Jason ran, clutching the crystal. The tunnels blurred past him, the glowing symbols on the walls rearranging as he passed. They weren't just lights. They were guiding him. Behind him, the sound of Vor pursuit grew louder, sharper. Every step was an echo of the ones chasing him. He burst into the great chamber where Alara waited. The moment she saw the crystal, the symbols on her prison flared to life. "Place it in the heart," she commanded. Jason stepped onto the platform, fitting the shard into the lock. There was a sharp click, then a surge of light so bright he had to shield his eyes. When he lowered his hand, the crystal shell around Alara was gone. She stood before him, taller than he expected, her armor alive with energy. For the first time she spoke with her actual voice. It was rich, layered, and carried a weight that made the air itself seem to listen. "You have done more than free me, Jason Hale," she said. "You have awakened yourself." The ground split with a deafening crack. The Vor burst into the chamber, dozens of them, but Alara raised her hand. A single wave of light erupted from her, tearing through the machines, reducing them to drifting black dust. She turned to Jason, offering her hand. "Your world will not fight alone," she said. "But the war is already here." Jason hesitated for only a moment before taking her hand. The chamber around them dissolved into light for a brief second. He saw the stars stretching out in all directions, and beyond them, countless warships, black and endless, moving toward Earth. The light swallowed him whole. When it faded, they were standing in the command deck of an alien ship. Crew members, not human, looked at Jason with recognition. One of them bowed. "Welcome back, Commander." Jason stared at them, the truth hitting him all at once. He had been here before. He just didn't remember until now.